Alright, today we're going to be testing a motorcycle speed sensor off the bike. This one came off of a Suzuki Gsxr 600. Suzuki, Honda, Kawasaki, Yamaha, they're all going to be about the same. This is the newer style. As you can see, it has the magnet. What you have to do is you take a 12-volt battery, get power and ground to your connector. Make sure you get the right terminals, that we have nothing crossed. I have my test lead hooked to the signal wire, and we're on DC volts. Now what you're going to want to do is take a pair of pliers and touch the magnet and the sensor back and forth. Alright, as you can see on the meter, as I'm touching the back and forth with the pliers onto the sensor, we're getting readings. That is testing to be a good sensor. Now if this sensor was bad, it would not have any reading whatsoever. Now most all your newer bikes will have this style sensor. Some of your old ones may vary. For example, this is an older CBR 900, and as you can see, the speed sensor here has an old wheel style, and what it does is when it bolts inside here, you can see the shape right there, it sets on the bolt that holds the front sprocket on, and as the wheel spins, the sprocket spins, it spins this for your signal. Testing this is the same way. Now testing on the bike, you already got power and ground going to it, or at least you should, so when you turn a key on and test, you should get power to one wire, or battery voltage, ground to one, and then your third wire will be signal wire, which you will only get a reading off of it as you're spinning this sensor, or if you leave it hooked up, spin your rear wheel. Now we're back over here. Depending on your speedometer, if it does not work at all, of course, check, make sure fuse is good. Test, make sure you got power and ground to your sensor. Make sure you're getting a signal out of your sensor. If your sensor is working correctly, you got no problems there, then you'll go up and start testing the gauge, which I have an older Honda gauge here, but you know, you'll have to pull up the service manual to figure out which wires what and what the readings should be voltage wise, to be able to test the gauge. Now some vehicles or motorcycles, the issue may be into the wiring harness itself. Now if your speedometer works but the speedometer is jumping around, like it's just not reading nowhere near correctly, say like you're going 40 miles per hour down the road but your speedometer says you're only doing like 10, or it kind of bounces around, you know, especially on some of these older Suzukis, they have a piece that bolts to the front sprocket that this sensor reads on, and those bolts have a tendency to loosen up, and it causes that piece to not spin with the sprocket as it's supposed to, which will give it an incorrect reading. Now some of the bikes, depending on what it is, actually reads off the sprocket itself. It just depends on which model you have.